Okay, it's time to take yet another step into the Epstein files down the rabbit hole. I have an entire Epstein files series that you should watch. Check out the playlist. But most of what I've talked about so far has been things related to SA, whether it be SA itself, murder, cannibalism. I've covered all that pretty deep. But now I want to take a much deeper dive into something that's actually very mentally exhausting, so please take your time with this one, but I do urge you to check out everything I show you. I will be showing you a lot of stuff today, for real, but you should see all of it. If you need to watch this video over the span of a week, do that. If you need to take your time, watch a little bit at a time, I totally get it, but you do need to see all of it with my strongest recommendation. We're going to be covering everything Epstein was involved with that does not involve SA. Everything from the mind control stuff, the brainwashing, the occult, all that kind of thing. Now, I have briefly already touched on this, just mentioned it a couple times in past videos, such as this clip from the 3 million more Epstein files released video. Check out this one. Look closely at the ancient tablet he is holding out. Were they trying to do dark magic? With her hand covered in blood. Would you really be surprised considering what I already showed you earlier? Check this. So there's that occult thing which I mentioned in the previous video. I also mentioned this. This one ties in to the gender stuff that we all already know is true, but it's nice to always see Epstein and people he's associated with admitting to it. Here is yet another conspiracy theory proven true. As the smart people have been saying for years, of course, the orange juice people have been trying to push all of the trans stuff on as young kids as possible in order to make everybody trans. This has been a thing we've been talking about for years. And here's Jeffrey Epstein and Robert Trivers admitting to it. It is very simple. I will compare male to female with female to male. With greater molecular control over development, we are increasingly capable of producing novel phenotypes. More feminine men by blocking testosterone receptors, or castration, and at the same time increasing estrogen production. The one blocks male features, the second one encourages female ones. More masculine women, heavy testosterone dosage, incredible external effects, heavily bearded men, you would never guess they had female bone in their body. First kind, male to female, is 4 times more frequent than female to male. The first is attractive. He is a woman with a cock, so that if your fantasy is to suck a man's dick, otherwise you are completely heterosexual. It would be much nicer if the rest of the organism is female, then you get the best of both worlds. So many transsexual women are very attractive and easily make money, which in turn they assert promotes their prostitution since they have to pay hefty fees for injecting every week. But they are sexually happy. Once you have reached manhood, even castration does not prevent the sensation of organism. Contrast the poor female to male versions. They are unhappy and lonely. They are men with mum-pums, the worst of both worlds. If you like smelly, masculine men, you want that hard cock that comes with the show. You do not want one of nature's more complex and variable structures, the pum-pum. This is an acquired tasted and not with a man. There are hundreds of female trans videos and websites. I have never seen a male one. By the way, are we now pushing the intervention earlier so you notice your 3-year-old son has trans tendencies? So now you intervene with hormones. I would be frightened to do that, but who knows? So, yet another conspiracy theory proven. So we already knew that was true. We already knew that the apple juice created all the trans stuff and turned LGBT into a much more extreme thing, and their goal from the beginning was to basically turn everyone trans. And that's something they've been working on for a long time. It's why it's pushed on kids so heavily. And speaking of the apple juice, I also recommend you going to my The Epstein Files Have Driven Everyone Insane video, and I do recommend watching the entire thing because it's a really good video. But if you just want to see the part that I'm talking about, skip to about 29 minutes because I show a 6-minute compilation of the orange juice actively admitting themselves, in their own words, that they do control the world and that most of the corruption that we see here in the West, the woke ideology, was actually created by them and brought here intentionally for the purposes of destroying Western culture. They admitted to it themselves, they did it, they succeeded, and if you want to hear them say it for 6 straight minutes, this video, 29 minutes in. A couple Epstein files that I didn't even mention in the previous videos, such as this one. At first, Jeffrey was furious, but I pointed out that by staggering daughters every 8 years, he would always have a supply of ripe girls at his disposal. He bought me a house at blank, got my oldest daughter into blank by donating $50,000 to their gender studies, so as you can see, it's all the trans stuff, including the gender studies, was created by them. Program, and paid for my youngest daughter to attend blank. And all she had to do was send him a pint of Mormon blood every week. Thank you, Jeffrey. You helped so many people and gave me the Italian marble tiles in my kitchen steam shower and a ranch of my own to continue the great work. You're welcome. Jesus Christ. All the stuff involving the mind control, the brainwashing, the MK Ultra, the special abilities, the cloning, all the stuff that people called a conspiracy theory for many, many years has all came to light with stuff like this. Check out this one. I just shared with you a message that I got from someone that I am mentoring based upon the stages model. Her message popped up as I was about to write to you to see if you were around or new people here I should meet, and I shared it with you. Talking about people who are in stage 3, there are people who are developing a different perspective of reality and discovering the gifts that they have. So this is like those things, you even see this in movies where like people, kids, doesn't really matter, are like being abused so that their brains like achieve transcendence and they can gain powers. This, if for a long time, is something that people would only know about in movies, but it turns out it's real. Also, in rallying others who have a strong interest in this area among the new projects emerging, including a base-to-use science-based approach and Eastern practices to help sort these stage 3 people out. I understand that you were not happy with the results of the Cuba conference that you funded, but I feel that work is very important towards helping people identify and recognize the gifts that they have which may not be accepted or well understood by society today. I wonder. That is why your support is important to me and why I am communicating to you my work, and why I am grateful for the path that your commitment of funds has given me the confidence to undertake. People that would not normally otherwise fit in are learning to accept themselves and that abilities beyond what society would consider normal are possible. New models are also possible, such as alternative paradigms group are finding their way. New forms of knowing without how one knows. I'm in Paris and was about to write to you and it popped up. She is a classic stage 3 in the model. Outliner who is intelligent, was traumatized when she was young, and it's written right there in brackets, SA, and now gradually coming into her own and becoming self-realized, can share our text interactions with her permission, starting to develop special abilities. This trip we found a lot of stories like this, though she is more on the extreme side given her biographical history. Have been working with many such people with the model with good success. Incidentally, she is based in New York, can set up a meeting if you have any interest. In London, I met up with a group that leverages iboga and spiritual traditions from Gabon to offer this, alternative paradigms. So as you can see, all the stuff involving all the brain stuff and the powers and the cloning and the mind control and the MK Ultra and the occult, there's no conspiracy theory here. They've been doing this for a long time. And I guess it was never really that hidden in the first place because it even links to a study. This study investigated whether people who report recurrent extrasensory perception experiences, telepathy, clairvoyance, and precognition have suffered more traumatic experiences and traumatic intrusions. So, not even related to Epstein, there's literally studies about it. Don't forget about the secret societies because there's nothing conspiratorial about that. Just got a note from Bob Pride who asked me if I thought Murray Gell-Man would make a good candidate for the Zodiac. As you know, it's one of those last secret type societies. Last, I'm sure. The Zodiac is one of the really cool ones. There are 12 members at any one time and it's still very secret. They do really cool stuff, but mostly since they are all very old, it's just dinners in exotic locations. So I wonder what they were doing when they were younger then. I can't tell you all the 12 members because I don't know who they all are, but I know Paul Volcker is one, some other guy named Howdy, some guy named Bob, some guy named Tom. I can't tell you who they are, but I'll give you 4 of their names. Bob represents Cancer, the sign, not the month. You are a member until your death, but if you get senile, they can put you in eccentric orbit and not invite you to meetings, etc. Anyway, the only way to get in is if someone dies. There are obviously no minorities or women allowed. Okay? Anyway, let me know what you think. I also very, very strongly urge you to check out this interview that Blaire White did with one of Epstein's survivors, Juliette Bryant. It's only 47 minutes, and this can't be seen anywhere else. I don't even know how she got this interview, but I've seen the whole thing. And by the way, this is not new. She did this interview July 14th of last year, so before the Epstein files were even released, Blaire White had an interview with her, and they cover all of those really satanic topics. They literally talk about cloning, and like I said, MK Ultra, mind control, brainwashing, all of the occult stuff, including even the lizard people. It's crazy shit. And what's interesting is that last year, when she uploaded this, a lot of her comments were like, "Oh, I can't believe the cloning stuff. There's no way that's real." A lot of the comments calling Juliette crazy and saying things like, "Oh, well, maybe she was just really badly abused and they put thoughts in her head, so now she believes this stuff, but it's not actually real. She's just a severe victim and has like brain trauma or something." But what's funny is now that we actually have the Epstein files where they talk about this stuff and admit to this stuff, we now know that Juliette is not crazy. Everything she said is real. I will link this video in the description. Check it out. Now I want to show you the biggest thing. I found this YouTube channel called Mind Unveiled, and they do a lot of different videos on various different topics, but recently they have been working on a 6-part project of examining the Epstein files, and they primarily focus on all of the non-essay stuff. And at first I was like, well, I'll just show you the information that he shows, but no, his research is way better than anything I could do. So instead of me doing it, I'm going to simply show you a clip from each video, and you guys will go and watch it. They are long. Between all 6 videos, it is 8 hours of content, but I can help you with describing what the videos are, and you can decide if you really want to see them or not. I do strongly recommend them, but let's do one at a time, starting off with part 1.
Now I realize why. This may be the biggest video I've ever made. I just spent the last week developing a research tool that would allow me to search with my own terms through 44,000 of those documents. But I took a completely different approach. I wasn't looking for names or occult terms. I was looking for what he was building. And what I found changes the entire story. Tucker Carlson had Ian Carroll on his show this week to go through the Epstein files. 2 hours. They covered the trafficking, they covered the intelligence connections, they covered the financial web, and then Tucker said something that stopped me.
I suspect that the DOJ was not very interested in making them very accessible, as noted by them not giving us zip downloads to even download them at this time. So, trying to make them more accessible.
Can I suggest a thread, for a younger, more energetic man to follow up on?
Absolutely.
And that's Epstein's fixation on genetics and biotechnology. Yeah. And it's very clear to me, well, much is not clear to me at all, and I don't understand this category very well. I'm not a scientist, a geneticist, but I have noticed, not just with Epstein, but with a bunch of people in Epstein's orbit, there is a fixation on genetics and changing genetics and improving people and cloning and on really kind of tampering with the material of life in a way that someone who believed he was God would, or someone who's involved, in the supernatural would. I mean, there's really heavy stuff here, and that really, really matters. And I have not seen anybody go into that in a methodical way.
He's right. Nobody has. Until now. Here's the story everyone has. Epstein told scientists he wanted to seed the human race with his DNA. He had a ranch in New Mexico where the plan was to impregnate 20 women at a time.
So I'm going to stop here in terms of the video. The whole thing is 40 minutes long, and he primarily covers transhumanism, child cloning, genetic modification, fusing AI with humans, growing children, and editing their DNA. He even covers how this isn't new and gives examples from a few hundred years ago. That's what this first 40-minute video is, and I strongly, strongly recommend you sit through it and hear what he has to say. It is wild stuff. Part 2 in his series, titled So Epstein Led a Secret Society. This video is 52 minutes, and I'll show you the first 2 minutes.
What if I told you that Epstein wasn't just connected to secret societies, he was in them? That he had real esoteric knowledge? That he was a part of a 158-year-old secret society that most people have never heard of? And he even wanted to start his own. Get ready, because after this, you'll never see the world the same. In part 1 of Epstein Unveiled, we went through the genetics in detail. The baby farms, the egg doctor, the CRISPR research, the DNA kits shipped to Dubai. And there's still more to discuss on that front. But right now, we need to go to a layer that I didn't get into in part 1. Because for a lot of people, it's just too unfathomable. It can't be real. Epstein, the inner circle, and the occult. Now before we dive into this methodically, I want to address some things. If you've been online the past few weeks, you've probably seen some pretty wild claims about what's in the files. It would seem that the Ball or Bail bank account was some type of OCR error, and I did look for spirit cooking and cannibal terms, but I couldn't find any EFTAs that could confirm this. So there is a lot of noise out there.
Just want to interrupt him for a second. Spirit cooking is real, and I cover it in my Pizzagate video. Check it out. I will link it below as well.
A lot of reaction content, and that's really why I wasn't interested in looking into this in the first place. But my workflow is, if I can't verify it, I'm not going to use it. I just want to show you what's actually in the documents and connect the dots. That's it. I'll have the EFTA numbers on your screen so you can look it up yourself. What's actually in there is worse than the noise. So let's start with this. This is an email from Epstein's files, and keep in mind, at this point he's already been convicted. Someone in his circle is sending him this. Suggestions for an old guy, super smart, well connected, that wants to continue legacy of old school secret society.
I strongly again urge you to watch this video. He covers secret societies, such as the Bohemian Grove and the Zodiac Club, which I mentioned earlier. And he even covers how Epstein himself wanted to start his own secret society. The video is 52 minutes long. I do urge you to watch the entire thing. I will link it below. This is part 3 of his Epstein series. This one is titled Epstein Uploaded Consciousness. It is 44 minutes long. Please watch it. The link will be down below. I will show you the first 2 minutes.
While the media is still trying to pick up the pieces and get people to look in other directions, real researchers are picking apart the files and putting it all together. Now, a vivid picture is beginning to emerge. What you're about to see may shock you, but it is crucial for us as the human race to understand. It would seem that the elites are experimenting with tech that they don't want us to know about because, well, they have certain plans for us. It all revolves around what we're going to be talking about today: immortality. I've now spent 2 weeks in 846,000 files, and what came out of it is a pipeline. 5 stages: map the mind, model the brain, preserve it, build a new body, then transfer.
I'll stop here. So this full video is about uploading consciousness to robots, doing experiments on people in hopes they gain special powers like spoon bending and telepathy, which I also mentioned earlier, more on cloning, genetic editing, and eugenics. There is even documents that show Epstein wanted to preserve his own brain and reproductive organs so he could be recreated after his death. Dead serious. Again, Epstein Uploaded Consciousness, 44 minutes, link down below. Part 4 is a lot more unique. This one is 3.5 hours. I also suggest watching this one, but you can skip it if you're not as interested. As opposed to just covering this kind of stuff, this video also, what it's mainly doing is just showing how Hollywood is connected. Hollywood knew what he was doing. Hollywood supports this stuff, and not just what Epstein is doing, but what's being done worldwide from all other political elites all around the world, and the sick things that they do. He discusses a movie called The Island, and he literally discusses how this movie, The Island, literally ties into Epstein himself, as well as his own island and the files. Basically saying that the movie is giving clues to what is really going on, but disguised as your traditional Michael Bay movie, but in reality, it's not. That's about the first 2 hours. Then the last hour and a half, he quickly discusses 4 other movies that have similar ties to the Epstein files. So in total, he covers 5 movies in this video. The first movie, The Island, is the first 2 hours, and he goes faster with 4 movies in the last hour and a half. So you're not going to be learning anything new about the files in this video if you watch it, but more so the connection between these movies and the files. So I do suggest it. It's a really great watch, and he has some amazing information, but if 3.5 hours is too long for you, I do understand. The last 2 videos, one is called America is Under a Trance, and the second one's called The Bride of Farmer. These 2 videos, one is an hour and 11, and one is an hour and 6. These videos, just to not waste too much of your time if you're already exhausted from the first 4, you can skip these. Part 5 is very interesting. It's primarily about MK Ultra and how it never actually ended in 1973, but rather evolved under the name Project Monarch. He even goes into detail about how Project Monarch was completely scrubbed from Google, and the top result is just immediately calling it a conspiracy theory without giving any information as to what it actually is. Which, as we know, when we see stuff like this, that only proves it to be real. And how Epstein was still funding similar experiments. And he finds some really interesting connections with how the butterfly icon is shown all across Hollywood. And he gives multiple examples of how it is. But again, he focuses mainly on that and not necessarily the Epstein files, so you can skip it if you don't want to waste an hour watching that. And in the 6th one, it's pretty much entirely about how he exposes how Candace Owens' husband has connections to Jeffrey Epstein. And he does. Again, not really about the Epstein files themselves, but more so about Candace Owens' husband being connected to him. If that interests you, then by all means check out part 6 called The Bride of Farmer. But as far as I'm concerned, like what interests me, I'm looking at part 1, 2, and 3, and part 4 is interesting if you can sit through 3.5 hours, up to you. Everything will be linked down below. I strongly urge you to check out, at the minimum, part 1, 2, and 3. Now, that's all I have to show you related to today's topic with the whole mind control, MK Ultra, genetic modification, cloning, and all that kind of stuff. But I do want to go back to what I would talk about in the previous videos because there's one file in particular I missed, and I just want to show it here because I have nowhere else to put it. Just check this one out as your... This one is your dessert. At the end of your meal, this is your dessert. I think that was a very bad example, but here, check this out. Edward, this is sensitive, so it will be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or trash it, but this comes from a person that has been there and seen it all. As a former staff, all at the Zorro. The material below was taken from Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damning about Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside of the Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Epstein and Madame G? Both died by strangulation during rough fetish sex. Link 1. Sex video with minor. Link 2. Threesome video. Link 3. Threesomes. Link 4. Underage girl, sex video. Link 5. Sex underage girl, Matthew Mellon video. Link 6. Underage girl, rape fantasy video. Link 7. Girl from Bay Area suicide attempt confession to Madam G. Try and have a good day.